Let's bring in eNCA senior reporter Aviwe Mtila, who has been tracking this story for us. Also attended that briefing earlier where Bushy Maape was announced as premier-elect, right, candidate-elect for the Northwest. Aviwe, thank you so much for your time. Supporters of Job Mokgoro are calling this a coup. You've got the ANC's IPC announcing Bushy Maape. What's happening with Job Mokgoro? It looks like they don't know where he is. He hasn't resigned, but they're going ahead with this announcement.
Well, the indications is that he hasn't resigned officially. Conversation that, in fact, we just had with Mahikeng, the coordinator of the interim provincial committee in the Northwest province. The suggestions are the NEC have now deployed the incoming premier, well, let's call him that, Bushy Maape, of course, a veteran in the province and in the party itself. But what was clear is that the outgoing premier, Job Mokgoro, is still the premier as he hasn't resigned. We didn't even see him inside here alongside that delegation. Something that you'd expect, that going into a briefing like this, alerting the nation as a whole on the developments of the Northwest, that he'd be right by their side. But the indications are that they're in good conversations and they're hoping at this stage that Job Mokgoro will tender in his resignation. Another issue, of course, would be whether he'd tender in his resignation as well in the legislature itself, because we understand Bushy Maape is not part of the legislature, is only part of the IPC structure, but the suggestions are that they'll still deal with that internally, because in order for him to be the premier, he also has to be part of the list that will be given to the IEC, approved by the IEC, and then only then can he be elected officially as the premier of the Northwest province.
So what the next process then that follows is that it has to be taken to council, because Mr. Maape would then have to be elected by council members. How confident is the ANC, given the divisions in the Northwest, that council members are in fact going to vote in support of Mr. Maape as the incoming premier?
That's a bone of contention, isn't it? I mean, the biggest headache at the moment is whether Job Mokgoro will tender in his resignation as per directive of the NEC. So even before going to council, the bone of contention is from the premier himself, because we understand the IPC, the interim provincial committee itself, haven't been seeing eye to eye, which was clear in the media briefing that we just had, mentioning the municipalities that are in standstill. In fact, the ineffectiveness of Job Mokgoro, while commending him for the last number of years that he served there, taking over from 2018. But the reality that they've mentioned inside here, is that not much has been done in terms of addressing the issues with the people on the ground. And in fact, there's a disciplinary hearing that him and 6 others are currently under, we understand, in the ANC structures, for not adhering to the directives of the party itself. So it's quite clear that there are clear divisions between the IPC as well as the outgoing premier, Job Mokgoro. So the question is, will he tender in that resignation, both as a premier as well as in the legislature?
Yeah, it's interesting because they've accused him of being a law unto himself. They've accused him in the past of running a rogue unit in his office. And it's interesting that they also said he played a part in stabilizing the province. But at the same time, they're saying he was resisting, what the ANC stands for, and that he wasn't a leader that almost understood what the ANC stands for. What's going to happen to him, according to their plan by the IPC, if indeed he ends up resigning, Job Mokgoro? I heard they were saying he may be redeployed somewhere. Did they elaborate on that?
Didn't give clear directives as to where he'd be redeployed to. I guess the hope now is for him to tender in that resignation. Talks of possibly by the end of today, given that they'd want to. It's a question that I pose strongly to Mahikeng as to when will Bushy Maape be officially the new premier, hoping that that process then would be done by the end of the week. But of course, now it's still hoping that that signature will be placed in these resignation letter, Job Mokgoro. As we heard, even some of his supporters, a handful of them, about 20, saying that he hasn't resigned officially. Whatever we're going to be told, is not in line with what Job Mokgoro wants at this stage. So it is quite questionable, given that the stance from the party, highest decision body making of the party between conferences, NEC, have mentioned their deployment to be the premier of the Northwest, a province that has really seen instability when it comes to their premiers. I mean, the last time that they had an effective premier who has served both their 5-year terms was just pre-2009, because we know in 2009 Maureen Modisela came in only for a year for him to be deployed as an ambassador in 2010. Thandi Modisa came in then 2011, serving up until 2014, where Supra Mahopelo came in, up until we saw those images back in 2018 of those protests, President Cyril Ramaphosa having to instate Job Mokgoro himself here in 2018, serving as an interim premier up until 2019, where he was fully then elected as a premier. 2 years down the line, we hear that he's now out, coming in Bushy Maape, in what supposed to be another 3 years. Some sort of instability that talks a lot to the service delivery issues that were mentioned inside. While all of these political ramblings and political going-ons are happening, it's the service delivery that is clearly lacking in the Northwest province.
Yeah, interesting that he was brought in to bring about stability and ensure the service delivery, and yet the same ANC that deployed him there are saying he clearly, I mean, they're not saying it directly, but clearly they're saying he's failed in the mandate that he was given. Aviwe, thank you so much for that update, speaking to us about the interesting developments coming out of the Northwest. Bushy Maape is the veteran of the ANC. He was on Robben Island. He was one of the leaders of the UDF, PWC, member of the Veterans League, worked in the Premier's office, and he is now the candidate-elect for Premier of the Northwest. And the next process will have to be council in the Northwest that must vote in support of his nomination so that he can officially take up post. And the question now is, what happens to Job Mokgoro? Is he going to challenge this decision by the ANC? He has been deployed there by the ANC. Can he even challenge it? And is the ANC confident its members in the legislature will vote in support of this new candidate? We'll watch that story as it's expected to develop in the coming days.